And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Director of WEIU-FM. Today, we are going to be talking about the Dragonflies program. A couple of guests in the studio. First of all, my new co-host will be here every other week, Amanda Norval.
Hello, everybody.
How are you, Amanda?
I'm good. How are you today?
Why don't you quickly tell our audience just a couple things about you, maybe where you're from and what you do here at Eastern?
I am from Monroe City, Missouri, so I'm not even from Illinois, really. And I work at HitMix Tuesdays 2 to 3 and Saturdays 9 to noon.
And making her initial appearance on this show, she's been at WEIU a couple times, is my friend Julia Boyd.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Who soon will be just, we won't even say how old you'll be.
Oh, great.
No, that's all right. You still look great, so it's all good. Well, it's a serious topic today, though, even though we like to have fun on Issues and Attitudes. We're going to talk about the Dragonflies program, and maybe for people who don't know, why don't you talk about what Dragonflies is first?
Okay. Dragonflies is a special need program. We talk about it being a dance and drama program for autism and special needs, and we work on all kinds of things such as drama exercises, movement-based movements that stimulate the brain, working on team building and socialization. And because of autism and its dysfunctionality, if you will, is that it is a social disorder. And so we work on the inner child being able to explore and express, which is very difficult sometimes when a child is diagnosed with autism, especially through youth and adult life. So those are the things we work on, dance and drama, and using techniques that help them.
Now, is this a national program that you brought?
Actually, this is my brainchild.
Okay.
I wanted to actually honor my aunt who died from breast cancer, and she loved Dragonflies, and she was a world-renowned choreographer, and I was inspired actually at her funeral. And you can see our logo in the wings. It has an autism awareness puzzle, but underneath it, to me, that's breast cancer. And I feel like she's leading me to more art and helping kids express themselves. So I feel like it's very therapeutic, and that's why I named it Dragonflies. The methods that I do base Dragonflies off, I've gotten training, is autism movement therapy and also the Miracle Project from Los Angeles. I've been working with them.
And the reason that you have so much passion and are behind this project is because you have a son, 11.
Absolutely.
Jacob, who is autistic. And talk about Jacob.
Jacob is a severely autistic, and I have a friend who calls her son very autistic, so I'll call Jacob a very autistic boy. He's a low communicator, which means he does verbalize things in more utterances, no words, and has never really spoke. He is starting to try to verbalize some things, but it's very difficult for him. He's large in stature. He's as big as me now and stronger than me, which is always kind of an interesting day for me, especially when he gets off the bus. But Jake is a joy, and he has great smile and laughter, and has come back into our world. When he was first diagnosed, though, it was not such a pretty picture. It was very much a rejection time, and Jacob had nothing to do with us for years. It was very difficult to take care of him. He's manageable now, but at times he does act out because he can't communicate what he needs, and he gets frustrated, and that comes out in a heightened time. I will describe him, though, sometimes as like having a 170-pound toddler. If you can wrap your brain around that, we didn't get out of the toddler years. So it's a lot of times hard to manage. So the things that I do and have tried to teach myself is to not only learn how to take care of him, but then arm myself with good information so that I can help others, too, with what I've been through. And sometimes as a parent, I can say it with authority because I've lived it. So a lot of times when I'm working with other parents, I'm able to speak truth into their life and help them along and give them hope.
There you go.
Why did you want to bring it to this area?
Well, I'm from Mattoon originally. I did live away for quite a while. I'm from here, and I feel like Eastern is very important to me. I'm an Eastern alum. I actually came back to school. I was here for theater back in '93. Ooh, I'm going to date myself. And then I went back into the Bachelor of General Studies program and finished out in 2010. So I'm an Eastern alum. I'd love to get my master's, but they don't really have the programs that I'm looking for as far as a Master's of Arts. And I'm looking into that, you know, in kinesiology and the movement aspect. And theater, it's not one degree out there for me. But I do love the Charleston and Mattoon area. I'm working with the Dance Life Center. It's a dance program. And when I did my undergrad, actually, I trialed this as a narrative study with a lot of my friends at a dance studio to see if anybody be willing to take us on. Because let me tell you, when you get about 12 kids with high behavior problems, you don't look successful and you could destroy a studio. Because it just really can get crazy. And if you don't know order or how to route everyone, it will look like you're never getting anything done, or you may not be able to have people who will back you. And I was fortunate to find Antoine and Krishna Thomas, who had bought the Dance Life Center, which was Jackie Bennett's, which had a really good reputation here in the area. So if you can imagine, I'm from Mattoon, but I knew Eastern and I knew Charleston, and also Antoine was willing to take me on privately for a while. We're actually at a year out. I meant to tell you this. Today is exactly when we were official with Dragonflies, was September 10th of last year.
That was
Isn't that wild? Yeah. I know, but it was so weird you picked this day because
well, maybe there's a reason.
It's our year anniversary of when we started really putting the word out. But just so you know, I'd worked a year prior to that in meetings, trialing things to see if this would even work for the area. So to answer your question, there was a lot to why I brought it here, but this is where a lot of my friends are, and this is where we are.
So since you're a year out, I mean, how do you rate your first year, and what do you think's next?
It was incredibly successful. Obviously, this is meeting some needs that people wanted in their lives. I know not everybody respects dance and drama like I do, coming from the arts. And my background as a performer and entertainer, I've always respected them. They're very therapeutic for me. I was a little concerned, though, that Jake would reject it because it's the one thing I'm passionate about. You know, that's hard enough. He's rejecting everything else. Is he going to respond? Jake responded. And so that when Jake responded to me in the Miracle Project methods and autism movement therapy, I knew I was on track. I knew that I was doing it. So we've had 30 people pass through our program. I told you about the Pepsi Refresh Grant. We got global status on that, and we've had the assistance that we need. And we've had a lot of Eastern students come and volunteer at our program. So this integrative learning initiative is happening. And we had talked earlier before the interview that, you know, theory and application. Can I provide a place for the students at Eastern to come and volunteer and be with our kids so they're not as intimidated, or they can apply theory and see what it's like to be with them.
And you even said one of your friends was involved.
Yes, I had a friend that was going to be my next thing. I had a friend who volunteered last year. I'm not sure if she's doing it again this year or not, but she volunteered last year, and that's what I was going to ask. Can anybody that wants to volunteer, or does they have to be like in a special needs like program through Eastern to be able to volunteer?
Right. Last September when we did our first day, it was a lot of communication disorder sciences, people who had helped me privately and then came out publicly, and then it was special ed. So we stuck with the two that really had a baseline of autism and a little bit of understanding. We're open to working with other volunteers. The key thing with autism, though, is consistency. A lot of times we'll find, onesie twosies are coming on a Tuesday night one time. Yay! No, we need a little bit more of commitment, like a 4 weeks or a semester. So we have consistency too as leaders, because we want to take this program serious. And if we don't have the commitment, it's kind of hard to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And me as a leader too, I need extra hands. I need commitments. I can't do it all, and I admit that. And I also have to look for other instructors. We actually, if you become a volunteer and it's something you want to actually learn how to teach these methods, I will train people on how. And so that's another benefit, but they have to be committed. I can't just go, because you like it and they're sweet and we love children with autism. I have to really get a commitment. That's where I would be at with it. I'd love for them to apply. And they can go to our website and put their name up, what they're interested in, and we do have a volunteer form.
Okay.
Now, when you talk about the actual program at Dragonflies, now talk about what the student, how many days a week? Is it daily? Is it nightly? Or, talk about the commitment from them and the parents.
Right. Right now we're building strong, and it may take it to go slow, though, actually. So we're building that foundation with this program. And because I'm a parent of a child with special needs, I don't want to overexert. I have to be careful how much, being the director and the teacher right now. But I have scheduled Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays. We actually, last year, were only 2 days a week, Wednesday and Saturday mornings. Now we're to 3 days. We've got more consistent. Some parents will bring their kids twice a week, but right now most of the kids are going to come once a week to the commitment. Okay.
The first time that a new student comes to a program, is it hard to get them involved with some of the stuff?
Absolutely.
Take us through what you have to do maybe to get an autistic child to actually, dance.
Move and listen
move.
to me and not try to touch everything in the room. It's that, we establish when they come into the room what the rules are as best we can. Some of them are nonverbal and some are verbal, so I have to kind of figure out which ones to communicate the message. When we had volunteers last year, for example, if there's certain throughway from the carpet to the floor, I try to say, you stay on this side, you don't go on the carpet. Well, where do you think they're going to want to go? The carpet. Well, the carpet's textured too, and we're dealing with autism, we're dealing with sensory.
Yeah.
They want to touch everything. So there's a balance between all of the kids. Sometimes we'll have a good blend and sometimes we won't. But the idea is to route them and keep them on the floor. We also have temptations, with the music. They're attracted to electronics sometimes, or a door that's open and wanting to get in and out and open and close the door, obsessive compulsive. So I would have to actually assign volunteers, sometimes like, you've got door duty, you've got, stereo duty, and they may just stand there the whole time and block it so the kids won't fuss. Because once one does, the next one wants to. So those are the type of things. First, we have to get past, what are they drawn to obsessively in the room? Can we reroute them to the center? And can we start doing the movement and patterns, such as arms across or arms in front? Being able to do music and hearing a pattern, for example, like 1, 2, 3, 4, stop, 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. You can build on a pattern, and those are type of things we do across the floor. But again, keep in mind, I've got to get them all routed into a line to be able to go across that floor together. And that can be the goal of the whole day. You
It's
throw
not
music.
funny, but
No, but it is. And then if you have kids who love loud music, who get, think it's awesome, get excited about it, then you have a kid who cannot handle loud music. So you could have 2 of those in a class. So we may have to find, headphones for one, so they can still be with us. They like to move, but they do not like loud music. So it's always a balance finding that out. Once we figure that out, then we start having class. And then we do actually have class, but it maybe take about 3 or 4 sessions when I start to see them get used to the environment, they respond to me better, and then they're able to respond to the bonding that goes on with the volunteers, and then they work really hard. It just takes a while.
Is there different levels? So or do you pass through and quote unquote graduate, or does it, how long are they in the actual program?
Well, right now,
Or do you
being
know?
a year, we don't know at this point, but we have established, because we're trying to set that tone, there's like a move class, we're calling it move A, move B.
Yeah.
Well, move A, you're probably going to be more intro. Okay, move
Yeah.
B, you've been in it for a while, you kind of understand the rules and how we're going to do this. Okay, so the kids are more responsive, and then sometimes they're just the older group. But then you have to remember too, when you're dealing with autism or special needs, just because a child looks 12 doesn't mean they're functioning at a 12-year-old level. My son's a pure example. Okay, so it's kind of hard for me to place them. I have to kind of hang out with them a little bit and assess them and then place them in a class where it's age appropriate or cognitively appropriate.
Okay.
So
that leads me to my next question,
Yeah.
and then we'll get to, I know what you want to talk about, Amanda, is that you said, Julia, that there were 6 different types of autism. There was 5, now you think there's 6, So when you relate that to the listener or the viewer out there today, because a lot of people just put it under the blanket autism, but go into particulars as much as you can.
Well, probably the hardest thing for me as a parent is when I say I have a child with autism, someone responds back to me, oh, well, I've met a child with autism. And I think, oh, okay, but you haven't met Jacob and his autism. And so, just be careful, I think, as to address the listener who doesn't know autism or maybe thinks they do. You'll never meet the same autism again. If you've met one, that's it. They're all individual. You may see some correlation. You may see some similarities or tendencies, but to never assume that the same autism is the same. And it's a spectrum, so that means it's across the board. There's different kinds. Okay, and it's going to come across differently. A lot of times, 2 parents will have the autism diagnosis and 3 other diagnoses to explain their type of autism. For example, Jacob there for a long time, they thought not only did he have autism, but ADHD. He also thought, he also has a genetic disorder. He also has apraxia, which is a communication disorder. I could sit here and talk to you about that. That's so mixed up, but that doesn't explain. It still didn't tell you what autism is, right?
No.
So you can't say that you've met somebody with autism that has the same autism. So I think that would clear up that I get frustrated a lot of times. And most of the time, we're fed by the media or by TV. And what TV is probably going to relate to you most of the time is high-functioning autism, which is more Asperger's tendencies. They're called little geniuses. If you've ever watched The Big Bang Theory, they talk a lot about the lead character as having Asperger's because he's
Sheldon, right?
Sheldon.
Yeah.
So if you know, that's very typical of but I'm not going to lump it into that's all autism, but that's pretty spot on some occasion.
There you go.
And it's funny too, but
Yeah.
it isn't funny if you live in it. I just want you to know.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit what is autism and what is not autism? What it is
Sure.
and what it isn't?
Yeah, autism is not a behavioral disorder a result of bad parenting, which some people like to say that, a result of bad education, or a psychological disorder. So it is not a psychological disorder. What it is a neurological difference or a disorganization of the brain. It's the way the brain processes information. It just doesn't process the same way you and I do. A lot of times it's more antisocial. It deals with sensory processing, motor planning and sequencing, your expressions, speech and language problems, and socialization. So those are the areas of the criteria that is more what autism is focused on.
Medical advances, where is it right now in terms of, the hope for, everybody says a hope for a cure, but hope for maybe the next step for treatment? I mean, where is it right now?
Well, as far as I know, there's been a lot of talk about, there's been some aggravated talk too about stem cell and different things of that nature, but it's not curable at this time. Autism Speaks is probably the biggest advocate out there, really trying to fund the medical industry and get the research, but there is no cure at this point. A lot of it's catching it early. They'll always talk about know the signs, start early with early intervention. We know that that works, but the treatment right now is more in speech-language pathology, occupational therapy, things that help the child be successful in their environments, educational, medical, but there is no cure.
When you talk about the signs early on, and relate it back to Jacob as much as
That's
you can.
fine.
I know you like to talk about Jacob, but I don't want to get too personal, but
Yeah.
can you talk about when you knew and then what you did and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was pretty scary. It's okay because it goes with the story. Jake was fine up to 12 months, and it was like a light switch. I mean, it was bad, and his were that he stopped looking at me, no eye contact. I never really understood it because developmental therapists were coming into our house for early intervention. We didn't have the diagnosis of autism, but we could tell he was delayed in some form because he wasn't speaking and saying words, and but he hit all his other mile markers. He just wouldn't do the verbal and the social. But he wouldn't gesture. He doesn't point. He still to this day has issues with that. So, when kids like, what's that? Point, nothing. No eye contact. He didn't want to be held, didn't want to be touched. And a lot of times you want to keep his clothes on. Not that most kids do, but it was really bad. Like, I mean, talking, I'm not joking, like 50 changes. I cannot keep his clothes on. He'd take them off. And at some point you're like, I'm shoveling in a blizzard, so no more. He's in his underwear, So at least he kept his underwear on. But I mean, it was that bad. And, it kind of becomes isolating because you don't know if you can get out because they're pulling down on you. Again, it's not bad parenting. I just couldn't get the child to cooperate and understand. So a lot of my help came from early intervention. Speech-language pathologists would tell me he was more garbled. When he couldn't speak, he would just kind of gurgle. So she's like, I don't know if he can really understand us. It said it's kind of like he's underwater. And then I thought maybe he was deaf. So we had like deaf, and then one person went behind his ears and clapped, and he wouldn't respond. But if he heard music in the other room, he'd become flying into the next room. So I think he was hearing on different frequencies, but I didn't understand. And that's that processing of the information going in. And was it really to our world of processing and understanding? Not so much. So those are some of the mile markers. Not looking at you, not pointing. Those are two huge ones with autism in the early signs.
Okay. Now, does he go? Where does he attend school at now?
Now he's at Armstrong in Mattoon at the special ed. He was at DDC for several years. We tried to integrate him into the school system. It didn't work for Jacob. It was overstimulating. For the very things that typical children apparently love, Jake is very overly stimulated by, such as lots of cool pictures and streamers, and then all these different things just really overwhelm him. And so he needed to pull back to less people in his classroom, like 6 or 7, and more. He has to have a one-on-one aid.
Is there things that you don't? You said he likes music. Is there other things that you found out that he really likes? I mean, music and the arts?
Absolutely. He loves music, which is awesome. I sing to him a lot, and he does like that, and he likes to play around with musical instruments. I wouldn't say he's amazing at it, but he definitely is drawn to them and their sound. And I think because they soothe him so much, like a guitar, he could just sit and just play with the strings. Now, he doesn't mean he's playing them, but playing with them. That resonation, He really connects with. And especially whenever I'm singing, he'll do a rock. He's very much a rocker. We call it the Jacob dance. And he really gets down sometimes. He's like side to side. Temple Grandin, one of the more famous autistics, talks about that rocking soothes the brain and reorganizes everything. So kind of this rocking motion, which is some of the things we do in class, in theory, that it would help soothe them, stimulate their brain, give them to a calm place so they can learn. So those type of things happen. He does respond to the music, though, big time. And he loves to swim.
Oh, really?
Huge swimmer.
I would have never thought that, would you?
Oh, he's actually kind of taught himself how to breathe underwater. I could have never taught him that. He figured it out.
That's cool.
And he's a little fish. There's no question.
There you go.
So.
Didn't you mention something about Temple Grandin coming to speak?
Yeah, she's coming to Eastern September 27th, that Thursday night at Doudna. Apparently it's already sold out, but there's overflow tickets available. And she is extremely brilliant. She gives a lot of parents hope. Went on to get her doctorate. Once she found out her obsession, which was animals, she felt like she connected with them better than people, which is mostly typical with children with autism or youth, because they just connect better with the animals. They're calmer. They're not overstimulating. And so she is coming, and she is known for animal husbandry, but she also developed a cattle system, and she's just known in all worlds as far as the animal science.
So there are a few tickets left or not at Eastern?
Apparently it's overflow now.
Okay.
So
and she's going to be at Lakeland as well, though, right?
At Lakeland that next morning, she's going to be speaking more on agricultural animal science. Here she'll be focused on autism and how she sees the world. That's what one of her book titles is, The Way I See It. So it's a really cool book. But she also has a book called Animals in Translation. So she talks about the connection of animals and communication and how we treat others. And it's pretty cool.
You mentioned Hollywood a little bit ago. I think everybody, maybe when autism first came to awareness was The Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman. But, that wasn't, obviously it's a movie, it's Hollywood. What other ways is Hollywood trying to integrate autism in? Because it's really, I think the last 15, 20 years, it's something that people have heard more of than before, and it's lately. I know you locally have done a lot of work, but even nationally, you hear a lot about autism. Talk about how Hollywood has either helped or hindered, some of your goals.
Yeah, well, the pop culture diagnosis is what I would call it. It's very much, it's 1 out of every 88 children are diagnosed right now, so that's a pretty high statistic. I want to say it's 1 in 54 for boys. So if you can imagine, the rate is higher. So there's been a lot of advocacy, which has been good, such as Jenny McCarthy getting on Oprah and talking about her situation. But again, it's kind of the same thing I talked about to you earlier. It's not the same autism, and you can't lump it in one. One child responds to one treatment, maybe the other won't respond to it.
Yeah.
And so when Hollywood tries to communicate it, we're seeing it either a celebrity has it, so therefore they become an advocate, which is great, but they're dealing with their autism, and then we kind of look around it. So I think that's good. When I see stuff like, there's been a couple of movies, just so you know, one of my mentors was on this set, and it was for the show Touch that's out right now. It was originally based on that child being autistic, nonverbal. Now they've pulled the autism component out because people who have autism didn't like how they portrayed it in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
And it got taken out to say, oh, he's not autistic, he's just got some really cool tendencies. So, I mean, it's just like, you're just amazed at how Hollywood will take it out. And I know that there was a lot of flack going on with that, and that they were trying to go relational with the families. And I don't know if you're familiar with the show Touch, but it's got some cool reviews.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland's the dad, and he's going through all this trauma. But, autism does get into the Hollywood movies, but you maybe just didn't know it was autism. There's probably been people portrayed in some of the movies you've seen, but didn't realize that it was there. I know with TV, like I'd mentioned earlier, Parenthood had a whole episode on them discovering their child had Asperger's and how the family dealt with it. And they were kind of in denial, or the child didn't know they had it, and them coming to the discovery. So I think that show touched a lot of parents' lives.
Okay. Let's go back to Dragonflies for a little bit,
Sure.
so maybe there are people that are interested and can find out some more information. Now, does it cost to come to your program?
It does.
Okay.
It does cost.
And then you also had Pepsi. Pepsi gave you a grant to help you set up the program. Talk about, maybe you don't have to give the actual cost,
Sure.
but what people can expect maybe, and then how Pepsi's grant helped you.
Excellent. Yes, we do have a cost because of operating costs. We have a downstairs studio on the corner of 7th and Monroe in Charleston, down on the square. And so we wanted it to be more handicap accessible, so we could have the ground floor, because the studios are both upstairs for Dance Life, so ours is downstairs. And what we've done is try to keep it cost effective. You're going to typically run for this type of therapy in California, Chicago, bigger cities, probably about $15 a class to take a class like this. Ours is half of that, and we try to give rates discounts to siblings. If people have given us sponsorship money, we try to sponsor families who can't afford to come. We've had some donations come in, and we're not even a nonprofit yet. We just are operating as a program to see how it builds. One thing that did come in to make our lives a little bit easier and exciting to kind of add to the elements that I've always wanted to do. Like you said, Julia, did you think of Dragonflies? Well, I did, but my dream was more from the fitness component. We all know fitness is good for us. We all know it stimulates the brain. Duh. Well, a lot of the stuff that I do does that, okay? But I also found some mentors that could teach me the ways of autism and how to deal with a classroom. So I've taken a lot of my background in the fitness industry as a trainer and figured out how to bring in the autism component. What we got from Pepsi was these Bosu balls, which are fantastic, and they're like half resistor balls, the big balls that you sit on to work out to. Well, it's half. What you do when you get on one of those is it balances you out, but it constantly keeps you moving, which is like a vestibular rocking motion. And so we get to use those in our classes. We bought those because of Pepsi. It was like an $800 purchase. It could have been $2,000. Bosu found out about it, gave us a discount. The Pepsi grant helped us pay for some mirrors that we needed in the studio that we didn't have. I was able to go to Los Angeles to get some more training, was able to kind of demonstrate that at Bagel Fest, performance arts type of stuff to help the kids be successful. It just really helped all around. We had a lot of people help us vote for the grant from Eastern. It was a voting situation where you have to not only get approved by Pepsi as to refresh your community, and I know this show is a little bit about how does this help your community? Well, my idea was to give the children a voice, to give them something that's in the arts that would help them. We were in the arts and music category, and we got number 3 in the country. So we ranked very high, and we received a $10,000 grant. And I've spent most of the money up to this point. I had to have it all allocated before we could even vote and receive the grant. So it's helped. We also have scholarship and sponsorship because of that grant that will be used this year to help families afford Dragonflies.
Sounds like you've got a great program going. We've got about a minute and a half left. So maybe anything we've forgotten to ask you or that you want to get the word out here in the last minute about Dragonflies or your story?
I just think that it's important that you just have some grace for people when you see them out in the public. If a child's having a meltdown, to not judge parents and judge children's behavior. I think it's really important. I think as a community, you can approach me at Dragonflies. Our website's pretty easy, www.dragonflies22.org. You can give me a call. I can leave my number here with you if somebody got interested in the program and wants to talk to me further. But I really want to work with the kids and help them have a sense of belonging. And that's our slogan, actually, a place to belong, and I want them to feel secure and safe with me.
There you go. Do you find it therapeutic to get out and talk like this?
Yes.
Okay, because the smile's coming back.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you.
Give that website again.
Dragonflies22.org.
Dragonflies22.org. And the classes are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday here in Charleston, right?
Mm-hmm. And all the schedules on the website.
The schedule on the website. I think you also have Facebook if they want to like it on there.
Perfect.
And go from there. Amanda, your first show, you got it under the belt. Feel good?
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. It was a good topic.
Well, again, Julie, great seeing you. Thanks for coming in. Everybody, this is HitMix 88.9 WEIU. Everyone have a wonderful day.